Welcome to Wake Up Call for the Soul podcast with Bill and Claire, where we're going to go deep and wide on subjects intended to support our awakening to greater truth, beauty, goodness, freedom, joy, peace, harmony, and love, and whatever other good words you want to put in there. So this is our first attempt at recording a conversation, so I thought it would make sense for us maybe to talk a little bit about how we got together in this way and why we're doing what we're doing and that kind of thing. So I'll tell the story from my point of view, and then Claire, I'll let you come in and share whatever things I may have missed or that are important from your point of view. Is that cool?
Yes, that sounds great.
Cool. Yeah, so recently I came across things because I was doing some outreach on Discord, and then I ended up going to Reddit and was replying to some different questions and things on there that I found sort of interesting that I was interested in responding to. And then Claire, you started a conversation with me, a private DM conversation on Reddit about what I call stellar friends, what other people might call what non-human intelligences or extraterrestrials or things like that. And so after a while, we were going back and forth. I got this idea of like, well, maybe we should somehow record our conversations so that other people might be able to get something out of them. So that's my recollection of kind of how we got here. And so part of my hope for what we're doing together um, is that these conversations might not just help uh, Claire and me, but also anyone who experiences any part of them to maybe moving a little further along that journey of awakening to kind of who we really are. Where do we come from? Who is source? How do things actually work in this universe in terms of laws and principles and stuff like that? So yeah, so it's pretty much everything related to like the really deep, real stuff for me. So that's my attempt at a description of how we got here and what I'm about. Claire, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I remember it pretty similarly. Um, I know I had seen you in a few different places on Reddit, and I always liked your responses. I felt like they were very balanced and positive, non-judgmental, and so reaching out to you just felt like the right thing to do. I had some more specific questions, and I think it was really a worthwhile thing. And now we're here, and I think it's a great way to have more of a free flowing conversation, something that, um, we get an immediate reply to, and other people can maybe listen and think, just because I know that there's other people who have the same questions I do. And a lot of the times I feel like, oh, I must be the only one that wonders this or struggles with this. But that's not the case. And the more I explore just different areas online, the more I realize I'm not the only one. Um, so I think this will be a really good conversation to have.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad I'm here with you, and kind of curious to see where we go and where this takes us. So yeah, so grateful to be on this I'll call it a journey right now with you. We've been on a little bit of a journey, so this is kind of this next step or stage in it. So I think that's awesome. So another thing, this being our first episode, I thought it would make sense just for Claire and me to share a little bit about kind of who we are. I've got a lot of material online and things like that, but just for the sake of the podcast, my name is Bill Fraze. Um, I didn't really come up with a script for this. Um, I have been on my own individual spiritual journey that I've been aware of for over a quarter century now. So, um, like, I'm super passionate about spirituality, about truth and love and goodness and beauty and these kinds of things. And so this podcast really for me is just it's another potential avenue to explore and express those kinds of things in ways that I hope might touch people and that might help them to experience more of uh, who they truly are as beings, and also those other broader, vaster parts of existence and life, and including what I call source, and even just the whole cosmos, the universe, the omniverse, the whole multidimensional awesomeness that is everything that is. Yeah, I just want to help people experience and connect it to that kind of stuff. And so, all right, I'll leave that as my introduction. Claire, what would you like to say about
Oh,
yourself?
well, I'm Claire. I am currently a student, and oh boy, I've been interested in some way in spirituality since childhood. I grew up religious-ish, um, and but always on the side, I was a little bit more into spirituality, and that's not to say that they can't go together. Um, and I'm also really into self-improvement. I've been getting more into philosophy and how those things can relate to spirituality. Um, and I would say I am a beginner when it comes to all of this. I'm very much exploring and learning and questioning. And recently, I would say has because I've taken breaks from exploring spirituality. There have been periods in my life where I've been really distant from it, and other times where I've been pretty close to it. And I would say this recent time that I've gotten back into it, I've stuck with it for longer than I probably ever have, and I'm very happy about it because I'm starting to really think. I don't think this reality that we see here is the end all be all. And I have gotten more comfortable with that. Some things that I have explored that have gotten me closer to spirituality would be like near-death experiences. I got really into researching those. Um, and then just there's so many different areas of spirituality and different even cultural beliefs and um, maybe even religious beliefs and meditation and all of that stuff combined has really gotten me interested in just asking a lot of questions and wanting to know more. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm at. I would say, like I said earlier, very much a beginner, new to all of this, but willing to give it a try.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I was interested in seeing if we could engage in these conversations with you is just I really have this sense of your openness, your willingness to consider things, your yeah, this kind of really exploratory kind of attitude toward the whole, I'll call it an enterprise, of spirituality and such. So I think
Sure.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited. So yeah, cool. Thank you for that. So what Claire and I have agreed to, at least anyways, at the beginning of this endeavor, was we thought we'd start on a topic, something that we each have at least some experience with, and so we're going to have kind of this conversation about meditation and prayer. And part of the reason I'm interested in this conversation is that I come across in my explorations on what I will call social media, lots of interest and discussion of what people describe as meditation. And honestly, from my perspective, much less that I can see anyways, or that I've noticed in terms of prayer. And so I'm kind of interested in exploring that. And I don't consider myself with someone with a lot of, if any, experience with meditation. Again, I've probably done it, and most of the times I did it, I probably didn't know I was doing it at the time. But anyways, but yeah, so I thought we'd engage in that conversation here. So, like Claire, would you like to talk? Because again, and we thought we'd start with the meditation piece. So, like on the meditation side, I mean, like what? Uh, let's see, I mean, when I say the word meditation, like what does that bring up for you? Like what does that mean, or how does it relate to your experience, or what would you like to start off with on that topic?
Sure. So when I think of meditation, I usually think of someone who's trying to quiet the mind and maybe tap into some sort of higher self or flow state or a peacefulness or a stillness or an awareness. And there's different types of goals with meditation. Some people um, want to focus inward and some want to focus outward, like have their attention on something else, or kind of having a transcendental, sorry, I can't pronounce that word, experience.
Transcendental, yeah, yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
tricky.
And but other times they want to really go inwards and have like a stillness and a awareness inside themselves. Um, but even beyond that, there's so many ways that people do it, and I'm still really exploring it because I am fairly new to it. I actually first really started hearing about meditation when I was a teenager, and I was put in an anxiety program, and I was taken out of school, put in this program, and they started teaching us mindfulness and so those types of meditations were guided meditations. You think of a thought and you watch it go by on a leaf on a stream, and that's just the mindfulness. But there have been times where when I meditate, I'm trying to reach a peacefulness because usually when I meditate, I feel like, oh, I'm anxious, I need to go be still. And so what I've experienced sometimes is a very um, gentle feeling that I can kind of invoke in myself. And some people say it's your higher self, or it's some other being, or it's just maybe they say it's just psychology. It's just you being calm. Um, and I have found that to be very beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So your first experience with it was kind of in those did you say that was junior high or high school in terms of like these guided meditations to help with like anxiety and things?
Yeah. I think I was probably about 12 or 13 the first time
Hmm.
that I went into an anxiety program. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and so and the folks in that program were they what was it all anxiety or did it have to do with different mental health kinds of situations and things?
Um, It was mostly anxiety and depression. Sometimes they had students or
Hmm.
that struggled with like eating issues or substance issues, but mostly it was anxiety and
Okay.
depression.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And so when you started that, so you find that to be helpful at that time, and that's part of the reason why you've kind of gone in and out of that stream over the years?
I actually really hated it at first. Really, I thought this is such a waste of time. Mindfulness is stupid. It doesn't do anything for me. Like
Mm.
at the time I really thought like this isn't going to help me. And then gosh, it wasn't until, oh man, maybe like a year ago that I ever really thought, okay, maybe meditation can do something for me. And I just have to find the right type, and stick with it because what I've noticed is it definitely is a practice and something that I have to
Yeah.
stick with and give time and develop. And I've gotten better at it. Um, but I would say, yeah, probably not until maybe less than even a whole year ago is when I started to give it a
Hmm.
chance. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm kind of curious about that's actually a nice segue to where my mind was going is like I'm kind of curious about your like your current meditative practice, and you can talk about it in the context of like how you started a odd year ago or so or whatever and where you are now or just in terms of kind of where you are now. Like I'm curious about things like frequency and duration and like and even the some of the details or the things that have become important to you in your practice kind of up to this point. Are you willing to kind of share some of that?
Sure. Oh boy, let's see. Well, I would say my routine needs a little bit of work. My consistency isn't where I would like it to be. And one thing I've tried to focus on is not just meditating when I feel bad and not just meditating when I feel good. Like I want to kind of get in the habit of being able to be in any mood and still practicing this thing that I would like to do. Um, and what else? I would say, some things that I focus on.
Hmm.
I get a lot of intrusive thoughts. I struggle with OCD, and one of the big things is I get a lot of intrusive thoughts almost constantly. And so when you're meditating and you're trying to be calm
Hmm.
and still the mind, my mind likes to go, oh, okay, we're supposed to be quiet. Well, I'm going to give you all of these intrusive thoughts. And the goal is to be able to kind of see them and let them go and not wrestle with those thoughts. But there have been
Hmm.
times where my mind likes to get a little tricky and it likes to, um, some of these intrusive thoughts is a little weird. It's almost like um, intrusive thoughts of having some sort of experience. And I'm not really quite sure how to describe that, but I can tell
Hmm.
that it's not actually my higher self or source or some other
Hmm.
thing. I can tell it's coming from me and my mind, and it's just kind of messing with
Yeah.
me. And so
Hmm.
something I've had to be um it's just something I've had to be aware of and to not dwell on.
Hmm.
What were your other questions? I forgot.
Yeah, no, no, that's cool. Yeah, maybe we can circle back on that a little bit because but yeah, I was just kind of curious in terms of like your actual practice, like
Okay.
so in terms of like I mean, I'm curious even about details like, do you sit down, do you stand up, do you lay down, like
Well,
and
sure.
and
Okay.
then and like, is it a focus on the breathing? Is it the observation of thoughts? Is it all of the above? Is it something I'm kind of curious about those
Sure.
details in terms of your personal practice.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, I would say I've been exploring a few different ways of doing this. So it's not always the same, but what I typically try to do is I will lie down and I have a blackout mask that I wear
Hmm.
because oh my gosh, my curtains do not block the light. And typically the time of day would be before bed. I like to meditate before bed. I find that it helps me. Um, and then if I have time during the day and I feel like I could use a little bit of meditation, I will, but normally it's at night. And I have headphones that I wear and I listen sometimes to guided meditation. I don't do super well with guided meditation because it's almost like I worry that they're going to move on to the part where you're supposed to already kind of be in this meditative state, and I'm still going to be trying to relax. And I'm like, oh, well, if I don't relax fast enough, they're going to move on without me. But it's really not that deep. Like you can rewind and, it's
Yeah,
fine.
right.
Um, but other times I listen to just like frequencies, the various frequencies, or just instrumental meditation music, and I try to um, just kind of be aware of where my mind is going. Sometimes I have an intention, and um, sometimes with the type of music I pick, I will pick out a song that has an intention already in it, either like on Spotify or YouTube, and it might say something like a certain frequency, and then like open yourself to new positive experiences or healing the sacral chakra. And even if you don't necessarily believe in chakras and stuff like that, sometimes just having that intention, something to focus on, um, can be very helpful. And so I try to just be aware and let things come. Um, but what's interesting is sometimes it almost feels like I am praying. And I know we were going to talk about prayer a little bit as
Mm,
well. So it's interesting. And I wish I had just one straightforward answer for how I meditate, but I'm still
that's
trying
fine.
to find
Sure.
what works for me, what I want from it. But overall, it has been a very calming thing for me.
Yeah, yeah, cool. No, thanks for going into the weeds on that with me. So when you talk about frequencies, are some of those audios you're listening to, are they like I think the word is binaural beats, like the
Yes,
things that are meant to induce certain brainwave states?
yes.
Okay, okay.
Some of them are, yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yes, no, thanks so much for sharing that. So I'm interested in circling back a little bit in terms of the you had mentioned kind of the intrusive thoughts that kind of come in as you're engaging in your practice. If this, it sounds like you're at a, nice early stage in the
Mhm.
development of your practice, but you recognize stuff like the fact of, I liked the way you said it, like, not just doing it when you feel great and not just feeling it when you're
Right.
having problems or whatever, but like it's just this steady practice. And I'm a huge fan of that. So yeah, you're
Yes.
totally on track with that, setting that as kind of a goal or an objective, I think. But yeah, with those intrusive thoughts, like do you ever find it difficult to like let them go? Like do you know I'm guessing that there are sometimes when you find it easier to just kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're fine, let them go and watch them meander on their way. And other times you like really get hooked by them. I was just kind of curious about some of your experiences that way.
Yeah. Ooh, there are times where I find it harder to let them go, and that's usually if I'm in a mood where I'm really expecting something. Because there are times, with meditation, I try not to go in with these giant expectations of having some sort of life-changing experience. Um, but there are times where maybe I am having a rough day and I go, okay, well, I would like to kind of meditate and bring myself back to the present and calm myself down. Um, and I find that a lot of those times, that's when the intrusive thoughts are really loud and harder to push out, almost because I almost wonder if I'm kind of hoping that something good will happen or something might reach out. And then my brain is like, well, we're going to conjure up all of these thoughts and make it trickier for you. And, I'm sure my brain's not actually thinking that, but um, it can be tricky. But there are other times where I get into this kind of flow state, and it's a lot easier to go, okay, yeah, whatever. That thought
Yeah.
doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, and so see, I'm trying to think. So when you said earlier, so a big part of what you're going for with your practice is really, it sounds like, I mean, peace is a significant component, but you also have an interest or a desire in terms of, I'll say these words and then you can correct me, kind of accessing or connecting with um, other aspects of yourself or reality that are not
Yes,
like material in nature. Is that
right.
fair? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so have you had, and I know this can be tricky because I'm very hesitant to share a lot of my experiences unless I feel fairly confident that it's going to be helpful to people and things. So like everything we do here, it's all an invitation, and you can be like, yeah, Bill, I want to pass on that. But I'm just wondering, like, um, like, have you had any particularly I don't know what the word is. I'll say interesting or really um well, and it can even be challenging, but something that you've experienced either within meditation or even outside of meditation, because like in my experience, like most of what I experience a lot of things within my practice, but I also, because of my experience, because of my practice, I experience a lot of things outside of my practice.
Yes.
So I was just kind of curious, and again, it's an invitation. You don't want to share. I totally get it because again, you could ask me the same question and be like, I don't know. So anyways, uh, yeah, any, I don't know, and they can be like, and that's part of the trick of it too, is like these things can be very subtle and very personal, and they can feel
hmm
deeply profound and helpful to us as individuals. And you verbalize them, and people are kind of like, that's it, like that,
Yeah,
what,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So again, and I mean, I'm not that, I hope not to be that kind of audience or anything, but I mean, is there anything that comes to mind that you feel could be helpful to share or that you would like to share? And again, if you want to pass on it, I totally respect that.
Uh, the first thing that comes to mind would be an increase in noticing synchronicities. I feel like after I meditate, I I just have a little bit, almost like a little edge on my awareness, and I notice things a little bit more. Um, and there have been times where I'll meditate about a specific topic. Maybe my desire is to um, maybe I want to improve my social life a little bit, and I meditate and I just kind of think about that. Um, and then maybe a friend that I haven't talked to in a long time reaches out, and I always just think, oh, that's a little interesting, the timing. Um, I think there have been other times where there have just been small experiences. The other night, I've started I've kind of changed how I've done things now that I can kind of remember. I look out my window at night in my bedroom and I just look at the sky, and that has become a meditative practice for me that I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah,
And sometimes
nice.
I listen to music with that too. But I had been meditating and I had my eyes closed, and I kept thinking, one of these days I'd really like to see a shooting star. And right when I opened my eyes, I saw a shooting star.
Hmm.
And all the other nights
Nice.
I had been looking out this window, absolutely nothing in the sky.
Hmm.
Um, and people
Yeah.
can make of that what they will, but I think it's interesting. And then I guess the other things I'll mention, um, sometimes I wake up very anxious in the morning. Um, it's just something I deal with. And sometimes I feel like I can't get out of bed. Like I'm so crippled by this anxiety. So I've taken
Mm.
to just taking a moment and trying to kind of enter a meditative state, and not for very long. It's not a long practice in the morning, but there have been times where I felt like there's a presence. And just the other day, I was pretty anxious in the morning, and I felt like in my mind's eye, this maybe this gets a little weird, but in my mind's eye, I saw myself, but then I almost felt like there were two beings or something spiritual holding both of my hands, like on either side of me, and just kind of holding me up. And I felt very supported by that. And that anxiety and the paralysis that I was feeling dissipated. Um, one other example I will give is that around, I want to say this happened in the fall of last year. I had been going through a really tough mental situation. I had someone in my life that was not treating me well, and then we went our separate ways. But I was very, very, very upset about it, and it had brought up a lot of some trauma in my life. And I had gone to do my meditation, and I felt like, oh man, this meditation session was so bad. Like I didn't, I feel like I wasn't focused, and I feel like maybe it was pointless to even try. And I was so mad at myself. But then I ended up taking a nap, and when I woke up, I felt like there was this bright, kind of like a either a white or a very, very pale yellow light surrounding me. And I felt like there was something there that was removing this situation, like almost like there was a blockage and it was pulling it away from me.
Mhm.
Um, and I felt like that was very profound. And I got up and I went about the rest of my day, and there were, the increased synchronicities and things like that. So, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that these things are like absolutely like undeniable proof of anything or even life changing, but there's still these little things that keep me going, and I go, okay, maybe I'm on to something, and I want to
Mhm.
try this again. I want to see where I can go with this. And I'm very thankful for those experiences.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are just beautiful experiences. And yeah, and I'm not even sure what to say. I mean, your expressions of gratitude are really appropriate, and
Hmm.
because, like that's a recognition that you have received something that has been
Yes.
helpful to you, that it has been it's brought peace or healing or some type of upliftment or clarity or
Yes.
an altered awareness. Yeah, that's really no, those are very powerful things, and to me, I mean, they all seem in some way directly or indirectly connected to your practice, but I mean also your desires, your intentions,
Hmm.
because I don't know if are you familiar with Deepak Chopra, the medical doctor who writes all kinds of spiritual type books and things like that?
I feel like I've heard that name floating around before, but I don't
Yeah,
know much about them.
yeah. So I've got, I think I probably still have one of his books, but anyways, he's a big proponent of, I think he leans toward meditation, but he probably has prayer and meditation in very much kind of the same category for himself. But he, as you were talking about, like, oh, I'd love to see a shooting star, and then you open your eyes and there's the shooting star, and or you desire something, and then you come out of meditation and right, something that seems aligned with the expression of your intention, and that really
Hmm.
reminded me of what Deepak Chopra talks about in terms of, because he's very much into quantum mechanics and things,
Oh,
which
right.
for me there's, anyways, we that's another rabbit hole for another episode, but where part of his uh perspective is that meditation, what it does is it helps us to access what he calls, I think, the field of limitless possibilities. And so that
Ooh.
because what it does is that, the material, I call it the material mind, or most people call it the mind or the monkey mind or whatever. He describes it, and lots of people describe it this way, Sufis and sages and all these people, is this just churning ocean. It's just like waves and foam, and it's like a stormy sea is what most people's minds are like most of the time. When we engage in a spiritual practice, something like prayer or meditation, there's that opportunity to take, what was this frothy ocean, and have it become closer to like an actual like a smooth lake on a calm day, where the water is smooth. And his claim, and I think the experiences you described really kind of support this, that because what he says is, in your meditative practice, then what you do is you insert the intention into that practice, because now the mind is not there creating all this chaos, at the same level, so that when you drop an intention into that water, it creates these clear ripples, and so then you get to experience things like synchronicities related to your desire, or right,
Hmm.
these blessings or gifts of timing, because the key to shooting stars is looking, in the right part of the sky at the right time. Like, it's like that,
Right,
that's
right.
the key. And so timing is everything. And that's I mean, that's part of why they're called synchronicities, I think, because the chronos, yeah, synchrony, like the lining up of time. So yeah, yeah. And I mean, I've got all kinds of ideas on the mechanics and laws and things related to that,
Hmm.
and that's a conversation for another time. But no, yeah, that's awesome stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. And that was
Yes.
yeah, that was really rich and beautiful. Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. And I feel like I consider those kinds of experiences, I've called them for myself, like touchstones, where,
Hmm.
when you're doubting your practice, when you're like, what's the point, or when you're, whatever, you're going through something, or you don't want, and you can look back on those moments and be like, well, my mind is telling me like this doesn't work, and it doesn't matter, and it's no big deal or whatever, but you have these experiences where you don't necessarily know anything for sure, except you do know that you felt different, then that something shifted and changed for you in a
Yes.
positive direction, and that's the important thing, right? I
Yes,
mean, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
yeah, no, that's good stuff. And so this ends episode 1 of Wake Up Call for the Soul with Bill and Claire. And so we invite you to listen to episode 2, which will be a continuation of this conversation where we delve more into prayer. And so we thank you so much for listening to Wake Up Call for the Soul with Bill and Claire. Until next time.